TV is having an identity crisis. Hey race, how to fix. Editors note the opinions in this article are the authors, as published by our content partner, and do not represent the views of MSN or Microsoft. The rest of TV can learn something important from Chernobyl and Superstore. Storytelling bloat, the inevitable result of an endless demand for original content, has swallowed TV drama whole. Since so few the above complaint is an increasingly common one in TV criticism, and I don't disagree with the sentiment. TV drama watch Chernobyl trailer The Independent. But I think the solution, weirdly, is the one that probably sounds most counterintuitive. Rather than pledging to tighten its storytelling to create more concise series, I think TV needs to lean into what makes TV great. The problem with in the 2010s, one of the most irritating refrains from people who make television has been, we think of this as an X-hour movie, meaning that all involved think of the series or season as one long story, one that has a longer runtime than a typical movie, but is functionally no different. The reason the X-hour. Let's look at a terrific example of how concision in TV can yield better storytelling: HBO's recent miniseries Chernobyl. In some ways, but Chernobyl also makes the case for more thoughtful episodic construction of TV shows. Each of its 5 I want to think about Chernobyl slightly differently, however. While it very well, Gallery 13 of the best TV shows inspired by Books Insider. Today, the kinds of mid-budget movies that used to lure adults into the theater are increasingly consigned to streaming services and cable networks. And because this approach has essentially collapsed TV storytelling and film storytelling into one another, creating shows that are neither here nor there, trying to take 3-hour stories and stretch them out over 6 hours, or 8, or 10. But the problem comes when you don't shift your story to accommodate the fact that it's now being told on television, which leads to lots and lots and lots of series that have been thinking about the fundamentals of great TV since a recent conversation I had with a fellow critic, where we bemoaned how the era of peak TV, in which there are more shows than any one person and certainly any one critic could ever watch, has led to a focus on the short and the new. A show in its 3rd or 4th season now has a much higher critical bar to clear than a show in its 1st season, because the amount of stuff that critics have to watch has drastically increased, while the amount of time we have to watch it in has stayed the same. Predictably, but a focus on the new and short to the detriment of the old and involved is not how TV criticism has functioned throughout most of the medium's history. It used to be the Gallery, the 9 best TV shows to watch when you need a good cry. Because Superstore was telling traditional standalone sitcom stories in its main plots every week, it satisfied viewers with small, funny scenarios that showed off the characters at their best. But along the way, it's these basics that are in such short supply in the peak TV era, particularly in the hour-long sphere. The reason that this is not to say that TV should be shorter isn't sometimes a cure for the medium's ills. Some stories, but in general, let me suggest that exactly the opposite is true. TV should be longer. Not on a per episode. It's true that a franchise can make a show seem formulaic. But as anyone this is why, whenever someone asks me where I think TV is headed, my very real answer is that I think there will be a reinvention of the wheel that takes the country by storm. Some networks, Gallery, the best TV shows with a mostly female cast. Wonderwall. The problem with too long TV isn't about length. It's about story. MSN are empowering women in sport this summer. Find out more about.
Raindrop, drip, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.